the gaming industry just threw away over $1 billion. From Star Wars Outlaws failing with the biggest franchise on the planet, to Marvel's Avengers losing with Earth's mightiest heroes behind it, to Suicide Squad completely destroying Rocksteady's entire legacy, all the way to Concord $200 million. 14 days. I ranked the 15 most expensive video game failures ever made, and this list gets really dark really fast. Alright, at number 15 we have Anthem. And oh man, where do I even start with this one? BioWare made this game. The Mass Effect people. The Dragon Age people. One of the most beloved studios in RPG history. When BioWare announced a new game, people lost their minds with excitement. And then EA got involved. EA forced BioWare onto their Frostbite engine, an engine not built for this type of game at all. EA demanded live service features. EA set a hard ship date. And BioWare spent 6 years building something that felt like it was built in 15 months. Because apparently it was. Former developers went on record saying the actual game was built in 15 months. Developers worked 90-hour weeks. People had health breakdowns. Some never came back after medical leave. The budget crossed over $100 million. The hype was enormous. The trailers looked incredible. Then it launched in February 2019. And it fell apart immediately. Repetitive missions. Empty world. A story that went nowhere. The flying mechanics were great, honestly. Everything else was a mess. EA set a target of 6 million copies in the first month. Anthem sold 2 million in week 1 and 5 million lifetime. For most games, that's a massive win. For a BioWare game with this budget, EA pulled the plug entirely. They killed the Anthem 2.0 redesign. They shut down all development. And BioWare spent years trying to recover a reputation that never fully came back. And EA shut it down anyway. Insane. Next, over at number 14, we have Babylon's Fall. And I need you to really listen to this next number. Platinum Games made this. The Nier Automata people. The Bayonetta people. A studio genuinely famous for brilliant action games. Square Enix pushed them toward live service. Again, another legendary single-player studio forced into a live service game. You'd think the industry would learn. It never does. Babylon's Fall launched in March 2022. It was a live service action RPG. Platinum Games went all in on this thing. A whole new Tokyo studio opened specifically to support live service development. And then it released. And the numbers came in. Peak concurrent players on Steam, 1,188 on launch day. That's it. That's the absolute best this game ever performed. 1 month after launch, it dropped to double digits. And then in May 2022, something happened that I still can't fully believe. One player was online. One single human being playing this game on the entire planet. Square Enix shut the servers down in February 2023, less than 1 full year after launch. They pulled it from every storefront, deleted all player data, everything gone. Platinum Games, Square Enix, millions spent, less than a year alive. 1 player online at its lowest point. That's not a failure, that's an extinction event. Down at number 13, we have Star Wars Outlaws. And look, I honestly wanted this one to work. Ubisoft built the first open-world Star Wars game. The first ever open-world Star Wars game. That should have been an automatic slam dunk. Star Wars plus open world plus Ubisoft's full resources? Come on, that's a guaranteed win right there. They spent around $200 million building this thing, and people were really excited. I was excited. A lot of us were into it. Then it launched in August 2024. And it just didn't land the way it needed to. Ubisoft's CEO stood up at a shareholder meeting and confirmed they missed their sales targets. He said the Star Wars brand was in choppy waters. That's corporate speak for we lost a lot of money. The game sold roughly 1 million copies in month 1. For a $200 million Star Wars game, 1 million copies is not a win. That's a Crisis dressed up in a Jedi robe, and I actually liked it. That's the worst part. The game wasn't even bad, honestly. Critics gave it a 75 out of 100. That's a solid score. I've played worse games that sold way more. Decent doesn't pay back $200 million. Decent doesn't calm down angry investors and doesn't save your job. Ubisoft's share price hit a decade low after this. They scrapped plans for a sequel entirely. $200 million. Star Wars, the biggest franchise on the planet. Still not enough. Next, over at number 12, we have Too Human. And I know we talk about this game a lot, but the story behind it demands to be told. Development on Too Human started in 1999. It was originally supposed to be a PlayStation exclusive. Then it moved to GameCube. Then everything fell apart, and after almost a decade of platform switches and engine overhauls, we finally got it on Xbox 360 in 2008. 9 years of development. The concept was actually interesting. Sci-fi Norse mythology action RPG, Silicon Knights wanted a franchise. The estimated budget sat somewhere between $60 and $100 million. And after 9 years of work, that number honestly feels low. When it released, it just kind of faded. The combat felt clunky. The story didn't grab people. It wasn't terrible, but it definitely wasn't what 9 years of work should produce. And then Silicon Knights made it worse. They sued Epic Games over the Unreal Engine failing to deliver on its promises. The lawsuit dragged on for years. Legal fees piled up. Court costs were brutal. Silicon Knights didn't survive it. The studio completely collapsed. A decade of work on one game. A legal war with one of gaming's biggest companies, and nothing left to show for any of it. 9 years. One forgettable game. One collapsed studio. That's Too Human. Now at number 11, we have Redfall. And honestly, this one makes me sad. Arkane Studios made Dishonored. They made Prey and made Deathloop. These people were legends. Genuinely one of the most respected studios in gaming. You saw the Arkane name and you trusted it. But Microsoft had other plans. Live service, multiplayer, a co-op vampire shooter. None of it felt like Arkane, which is already a strange direction for a studio famous for deep single-player games. But the wheels were already turning and nobody stopped them. They spent over $150 million building Redfall, 4 years of work. Microsoft's full backing, Arkane's entire reputation on the line. It launched in May 2023, and critics destroyed it immediately. Broken AI, hollow open world, bugs everywhere, performance issues on day one. IGN called it an undercooked looter shooter by every single metric. That's a brutal review for a studio this respected. The peak player count on Steam hit 6,124 on launch day. Within a week, it dropped below 1,000. Within a month, it was averaging 36 players a day. 36. And then Microsoft shut down Arkane Austin completely. 25 years of history. Gone. Just like that. Because of one game they were pushed into making. That's the part that stays with me. It wasn't just money lost. It was one of gaming's greatest studios erased forever. And that's a different kind of expensive. Redfall didn't just fail. It ended a legacy. Next, over at number 10, we have Darksiders 2. And this one gets overlooked when people talk about expensive failures, which is a mistake. Because this story is brutal. THQ poured nearly $50 million into this game. In 2012, that was absolutely one of the biggest game budgets around. That's not a small swing at all. And honestly, the game wasn't bad. If you played it back then, you probably had a decent time. It was a solid, ambitious action game. I remember people liking it. But it sold around 1 million copies. And with that budget and THQ's financial situation, that just wasn't enough. Not even close. Then, when Nordic Games later picked up the IP, their CEO went on public record and called the original budget ridiculous. His actual word. Ridiculous. He said they could produce the exact same quality at a fraction of the cost. That is your new boss publicly dunking on every financial decision the previous team made, while technically now in charge of their work. Bruto doesn't even cover it. THQ piled up enough misses that they couldn't survive. The company went bankrupt. Darksiders lived on under new owners. But the original studio and the people who built it, gone. Number 9, and we have Defiance. And I want you to hear the concept first before I tell you what happened. Trion Worlds built an MMO third-person shooter. At the exact same time, Sci-Fi Channel built a TV series set in the same universe. Events in the game affected the show. Events in the show affected the game. Real cross-platform storytelling happening simultaneously across 2 different mediums. That is genuinely brilliant. Like, that concept on paper is incredible. If that works, it's one of the most innovative things gaming ever produced. 5 years and around $80 million to build this whole thing. And the ambition was real. The potential was real. But the game itself just wasn't strong enough. The loop got repetitive fast. The TV show connection felt more like a novelty than a real reason to stay engaged. Players drifted away quickly. And then less than a year after launch, they switched to free-to-play. That fast. That's an admission right there. When you go free-to-play in under 12 months, it means the original model completely failed and you're just trying to survive. The idea deserved better execution. It just didn't get it. Next, number 6, we have Daikatana. John Romero made Doom. John Romero made Quake. In the mid-90s, this guy was the most celebrated game designer on the entire planet. An absolute legend. People pre-ordered things based on his name alone. Then he started Daikatana in 1997. It was supposed to take 1 year. It took 3. Multiple engine switches. Massive staff turnover. Budget climbing up to around $44 million. And the marketing. There was a full-page magazine ad so provocative and arrogant that it became one of the most mocked advertisements in gaming history. Romero built himself up as a rock star celebrity game designer. The hype was absolutely enormous. Then the game came out in 2000 and it was rough. The AI was terrible. Your companion characters constantly got stuck or walked straight into danger and got you killed. The controls felt completely outdated. Nothing lived up to anything the hype had promised. It sold around 40,000 copies in its first year. 40,000. John Romero, the man who made Doom. 40,000 copies. Ion Storm never recovered from it. Daikatana lives on not as a classic, but as the permanent cautionary tale about hype running way ahead of execution. The legend of Daikatana was never supposed to be this kind of legend. Number 7, we have Marvel's Avengers. And this one is a classic case of having literally everything and still somehow missing. The Avengers, Earth's mightiest heroes. One of the most recognizable brands on the entire planet. Budget somewhere between $170 and $200 million. A legitimate single-player campaign with a real story. All the big Marvel characters done right. It should have worked. It really should have, but the live service side of it killed everything. The grind felt empty and repetitive. Hero content came out slowly. The player counts dropped fast and kept dropping. The community that loved it genuinely couldn't carry the financial weight of what this game cost to make. Square Enix confirmed a $63 million loss the year it launched. $63 million on top of a budget that was already enormous. And Square Enix is famous for setting extremely high expectations. But Avengers hit different. The backlash was massive. The player numbers told the real story. They tried everything. New expansions, constant updates. They even gave away all the content for free at the end just to keep the servers breathing a little longer. And then they shut it down anyway. Marvel, the biggest superhero brand alive. And it couldn't sustain a player base. Another live service game that chased the dream and ran completely out of runway. Next, number 6, I want to tell you about a game most people don't even know existed. Between 2004 and 2007, Ensemble Studios was secretly building a Halo MMO, a full massively multiplayer online game set in the Halo universe. They called it Halo Titan. Now think about that for 1 second, a Halo MMO. In 2004, when Halo 2 was literally the biggest thing in gaming, when the Xbox was riding that wave hard. That should have printed money. Ensemble poured around $90 million into this project. Years of work, real development, real teams, real ambition, and then Microsoft quietly canceled it. No announcement, no public demo, no trailer, just gone, erased, like it never existed. Some people blame a shift in Microsoft's leadership priorities. Others say Microsoft pivoted to compete with the Nintendo Wii. Whatever happened behind those closed doors, we will probably never fully know. What we do know is this: $90 million. The Halo name, the most beloved franchise Microsoft ever had, and we got absolutely nothing in return. Most people still don't know this game existed. And honestly, that silence might be the most expensive part of this whole story. Just a secret that sat in a Microsoft vault for years. Number 5, we have Daikatana. John Romero made Doom. John Romero made Quake. In the mid-90s, this guy was the most celebrated game designer on the entire planet. An absolute legend. People pre-ordered things based on his name alone. Then he started Daikatana in 1997. It was supposed to take 1 year. It took 3. Multiple engine switches. Massive staff turnover. Budget climbing up to around $44 million. And the marketing. There was a full-page magazine ad so provocative and arrogant that it became one of the most mocked advertisements in gaming history. Romero built himself up as a rock star celebrity game designer. The hype was absolutely enormous. Then the game came out in 2000 and it was rough. The AI was terrible. Your companion characters constantly got stuck or walked straight into danger and got you killed. The controls felt completely outdated. Nothing lived up to anything the hype had promised. It sold around 40,000 copies in its first year. 40,000. John Romero, the man who made Doom. 40,000 copies. Ion Storm never recovered from it. Daikatana lives on not as a classic, but as the permanent cautionary tale about hype running way ahead of execution. The legend of Daikatana was never supposed to be this kind of legend. Number 4, we have to talk about E.T. We absolutely have to. There is no version of this list without it. 1982. E.T. was the biggest movie on the planet. Steven Spielberg. Record-breaking box office. Pure cultural phenomenon. And Atari saw dollar signs and moved immediately. They paid somewhere between $63 and $79 million in today's money just for the rights, before writing a single line of code. Then they handed it to one developer and gave him 5 weeks to build the entire game. 5 weeks for the biggest movie license of the year. And Atari had already manufactured 5 million cartridges before the game was finished. 5 million. That's how confident they were. The game released and it was completely unplayable. Broken mechanics. Constant falling into identical holes. Controls that made no sense. Players returned it in massive numbers. The backlash was immediate and overwhelming. Only 1.5 million copies sold. Nearly 700,000 returned. And the remaining millions of unsold cartridges were literally buried in a landfill in New Mexico. Atari dumped them underground. That actually happened. But here is why E.T. sits at number 3 on this list. Because it didn't just fail. It helped collapse an entire industry. The 1983 video game crash wiped out billions of dollars across the whole sector. Companies that had nothing to do with E.T. went bankrupt. The American gaming market shrank by 97%. 97%. One rushed broken 5-week game, and an entire industry nearly ceased to exist. That's a level of collateral damage nothing else on this list can touch. Number 3, we have Skull and Bones. And this one is still fresh, still unfolding. But what we already know is pretty devastating. Ubisoft spent almost a decade developing this pirate game. Multiple studios. Constant rebuilds. Year after year after year of this project existing and being reworked from scratch. The reported cost sits around $200 million. And look, pirates are cool. We want pirate games. After Black Flag, everyone begged for exactly this. The demand was there. But by the time Skull and Bones finally launched in 2024, the market had completely moved on. Sea of Thieves had already owned that space for years. And when Ubisoft confirmed there would be no on-foot exploration or land combat, a huge chunk of the potential audience immediately walked away. Reports surfaced just weeks after launch that the game sold less than 1 million copies. Less than 1 million on a $200 million game after a decade of development. Ubisoft is still adding content. Maybe it turns around. Stranger things have happened in this industry. But right now, this is one of the most expensive pirate games ever built, and almost nobody is sailing those seas. Game at number 2 is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And this one, of course, hurts to talk about. Warner Brothers confirmed it publicly. They took a $200 million loss on this game. $200 million. Gone. And this was Rocksteady, the Batman Arkham people, the studio that built arguably the greatest superhero games ever made. That name still meant everything to DC fans. People were excited for a new Rocksteady game regardless of what it was. But Warner Brothers pushed them into live service. A live service Suicide Squad game built around looting and grinding forever. Nobody wanted that from Rocksteady. Fans wanted another Arkham. Another deep cinematic single-player experience. Not this. The player counts collapsed almost immediately after launch. The backlash was massive and sustained, and the content they kept adding never turned it around. The Joker update they released felt half-hearted, and the community largely ignored it. $200 million confirmed lost. And then Warner Brothers said they still want to make live service games. After this, they still want to try again. Meanwhile, Hogwarts Legacy was their biggest recent win. A completely traditional single-player open-world game. This was without live service or any battle pass. Just a great game that people loved. Finally, at number 1, we have Concord. And nothing on this entire list comes close to what happened here. Nothing. Sony and Firewalk Studios spent 8 years building this hero shooter. 8 years. The budget reportedly exceeded $200 million. Some estimates put the real number significantly higher than that. 8 years. Over $200 million. It launched on August 23, 2024. Sony shut it down on September 6, 2024. 14 days. The game existed as a living product for 14 days. It peaked at 697 concurrent players on Steam. The entire game sold approximately 25,000 copies total. In a market completely dominated by free-to-play hero shooters, Sony released this at $40 and expected it to compete with Overwatch and Valorant and Apex Legends. Sony pulled the plug within 2 weeks, and then they issued full refunds to every single buyer. Every person who spent money got it back. That almost never happens. That's a company looking at a situation and deciding that admitting total catastrophic failure is better than pretending this can somehow survive. Firewalk Studios was shut down immediately after. The studio that spent 8 full years building this game simply ceased to exist. 8 years. Over $200 million. 14 days. Full refunds. Studio closed. Everything erased. There is no game in history with a failure ratio like this, not even close. 8 years of work in the market gave it less than 2 weeks before walking away entirely. Business schools will study this. Game developers will reference this for decades. It already has its own place in history. Concord is the most expensive video game failure ever made, and it isn't particularly close. And there you have it. 15 of the most expensive video game failures ever made. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like the video if you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.